sure wondering why it's so zoomed in. There we go. Finally. All right, everybody. Peace to everybody finna watch this live. I'm gonna jump straight into it. It's gonna be saved live, so there's no need to wait for anybody to hop in and start talking to me. So welcome to Thoughtful Thursdays with Trevon, Wise Yin, Matting. We're gonna actually talk about the meaning of Wise Yin here today. So it's a great topic to be talking about. I'm actually excited because this is the first time I'm actually explaining it on here on Facebook Live, right? So I'm finna get things in preparation, you know what I'm saying? If you feel like you're not an independent thinker, you don't think that, you know, people should have freedom of speech on social media, you feel free to not watch the live. You don't have to watch, right? So if you feel like, you know, people have to subscribe to your religious beliefs, your subconscious beliefs, your emotional beliefs, you have your freedom to walk away from the live now, right? Also, want to give homage to my big brothers that came before me. Rashad Jamal, we're gonna keep it real over rich in here, right? And also my brother Heru Haynes, we're gonna keep it facts over feelings, right? So this is a very intentional live when it comes to talking about conscious topics in the community that needs discussion, right? We have so much conversation in our community, yet we have nothing to talk about that's really valuable or really resourceful or really necessary to moving the community forward, right? So that's what we're here to talk about today, is moving the community forward and how that is going to look and how that actually is going to work, right? So as I set everything up, got my incense burning, got my music playing, we're going to get intentional with this conversation. Feel free to add any comments, any questions, anything that you feel like you want to include. This is the first episode of Thoughtful Thursdays. So as we get it going, don't expect too much interactive. I'm not gonna say that, but you know, everything starts small. So as we start this first Thoughtful Thursday, I'm gonna share my thoughts with you, right? So I'm gonna continue getting everything prepared. First, I want to give homage and respect and honor to the ancestors that came before me, known and unknown, in spirit and in flesh. I also want to give respect, honor, and love and gratitude to the Most High Source Creator, Mother and Father, right? It's not just one God, it's multiple gods. So I want to give homage and respect to all the gods that govern me and assist me in my living, as well as assist me in my spirit. So I'm going to just say Ashe, and I'm going to leave it at that. All right? So we getting this good energy, this good vibes going this Thursday evening. Even if the ancestors is the only people with me, it is what it is, because they know and we know what it is that's about to happen. So we gotta prepare, right? So preparation prevents poor performance, and the only way you can actually prepare is if you have a conversation about it, or if you have a plan, right? But we can't plan as a community if we don't talk as a community. And a lot of our community is divided. It's a lot of divide and conquer tactics that we know is being pushed into our communities. So it's time for us to take action and bring our communities together, because no one else is going to come to our communities and make us unite. So if we don't do it ourselves, then everybody else is going to keep watching us fail to do it on our own, right? So there's a few people in the community that actually want to create unity, and there's some people that want to do it on their own. You know, you got to respect people's wishes. If they do it on their own, that's their decision. But for the people that want to unite, we got a like-minded mentality, and it's all about unity consciousness over here with Trevon. So we're going to keep evolving and elevating, so that way we can achieve that, whether everybody going to be with us, which most likely is not it, whether it's going to be family that's going to not be with us, friends that's not going to be with us, or allies, business partners, whoever, right? Unity consciousness is a thing of frequency, right? This is not no trend. This is not no wave. This is not none of that, right? It's a frequency, right? This is something spiritual. This is something metaphysical. So we're going to talk about it. As we cleanse this energy, I said my intention is to cleanse all negative energy, all limiting beliefs, all negative thinking, and all emotional responses that are not aligned with our highest perspective and our higher self. So that way we can have clear, concise, and accountable conversations that are going to initiate change and initiate growth, right? So as we have conversations that are leading to growth, make sure that you are protecting yourself, because not everybody wants to see us grow and our community grow. So it's very important that you are intentional about protecting yourself. Because we are in the midst of a spiritual warfare. And if you aren't intentional about the things that you do, then that means you already are in enemy trenches, right? You already done crossed the enemy lines, because the intentions is not just a word, right? So I'll break it down for you. When you see the word intentions, it's not just intention, right? That's the word intentions. So when you look at intentions, I want you to look at it as a double meaning. It's a double entendre. Any word that says in, meaning that it's a double entendre. So inspiration, right? That's your inner spiral, right? Information, that's the formation on the inside of you, right? So when we talk about intentions, that's what is the tension that's inside of your body, right? So you are a ball of spirit. You are a ball of spirit, and this spirit has to be materialized. So in order to materialize this spirit, because spirit is light, spirit is frequencies, you have to materialize into atomic form, which is what you get when you have the flesh. This flesh is made out of magnetism, and it's made out of electricity, right? So when you have an intention to set something, what you have done is you have cultivated your magnetism and your electricity, and you have cultivated them together, made a combination, so that way they can have a purpose and why they're combining, right? And then once you have that purpose on why they're combining, now you're able to actually create something. You're able to do something, take action. So when you have intentions, you have to be very, very intentional. I can't use the word in a definition. You have to be intentional. So when you have intentions, you want to be very, very aware of your internal self, because the only way you can be intentional is if you are going within, right? But that's not the topic of the conversation for this Thoughtful Thursday. We're actually going to be talking about wisdom, right? So in order to talk about wisdom, we got to talk about ignorance, right? Goes hand in hand. It's yin yang. You got to have a balance. So in order to think that you're a wise individual, you have to realize that before you were wise, you were ignorant. Before you knew something you didn't know, and you don't know what you could know, right? So you don't know what you don't know, and that's why it's important to always be learning. If you don't know something, then that means you can't do something. That means when I know more information, I know I can do more. I have more accessibility. I have more resources. I have more options because I know more information, right? But if I'm ignorant and I'm not willing to learn, I'm closed-minded, I'm closed off, I'm not thoughtful, I'm not intentional, then that cuts off and it limits all of my resources, options, and my ability to do anything, right? So if I'm boxed in, I can't expand until I get out of that box. And the only way you can get out of that box is if you have an open mentality, because your mind is the first portal into your spirit, right? So in order for you to actually grow and actually channel your internal self into this physical world, you have to make sure that you are tapped into yourself. And the only way you can tap into yourself is through your subconscious mind, right? Your subconscious mind is the gateway to your soul, right? So before we talk about wisdom, we got to realize there's a lot of ignorance that goes on in the world, right? We got ignorant everything, right? Ignorant social media, ignorant women, men, children, elderly people. Ignorance is expressed in so many different ways, right? But the first step to overcome ignorance is observation. You have to observe to realize that you can learn from it. If you are not observing, you are not going to be able to learn. So as we see with a lot of ignorance in our community, one issue is that we don't observe from the mistakes that keep us perpetuated in the same cycle that is damaging our community. So when we have a lot of ignorance that's going on in the youth, right, with these YNs is what they want to call us nowadays, which is not something that we created. Notice that we don't control our own narrative, right? Because we don't use the wisdom that is embedded into our soul, our body, to actually move as a unit to make sure that we control that narrative. So since our narrative is not in our control, that means that we are ignorant to how we look to the world, right? So when people look at black people, they're going to see, oh, that's another YN. That's another street person. That's another thug. That's another this and that. Another rapper, another actor, another entertainer, right? So if you aren't aware of how you present yourself, then you're going to be ignorant to how the world sees you, right? And it's very important that we are self-aware, because if we are ignorant to how the world sees us, then that means we are also unaware of how we see ourselves. If we don't care how the world sees us, that's good. You got a nice sense of confidence, but ignorance is always confident, right? The fool is always confident in what it doesn't know. So when you have the wisdom, now you can have more awareness and you have more intention on how you present yourself because you're more aware of how you're perceived, because you're also more aware of how you perceive yourself. So the only way you can actually gain awareness is if you look at yourself in the mirror. You have to be intentional when what you see. You have to be intentional with what you see in the mirror, right? It's very significant because if you see something in the mirror and you don't understand what you see, then that makes you illiterate, right? If I read a word and I read a sentence and I don't know what I just read, that makes me illiterate. So a lot of people in our community, since we are spiritually ignorant, this makes us spiritually illiterate. So this is the issue in our community, right? We have a lot of illiterate souls in the community, and instead of actually learning how to heal and observe and grow, we choose to be ignorant and ignore the things that are in our face, and we put it on the back burner. And usually what we put on the back burner is a whole lot of pain and trauma, a whole lot of hurt, a whole lot of pain that has been perpetuated from generation to generation. And until there's a curse breaker in that generational cycle, there's not going to be any awareness gained. So it's always going to have to be a trailblazer in the bloodline to make sure that when I learn something new, I'm not going to do the same things that was done before I learned this information. They say when you know better, you do better, right? So now that we know, I mean, not even now, we've been knowing better for a long time now, but now that we know that all the other options of ignorance is not leading to us doing better, then that means that we have to use the knowledge and wisdom that we gained from doing ignorant things to do better moving forward, right? Once you fail, you don't just fail and fall and you stop. No, you fail forward, you keep moving until you get to where you're going, until you get to a win, until you get to a success. So speaking of that, we got the vibes rolling. Pretty nice intro. I came in here fired up, right? We're going to talk about wisdom, right? Because a lot of people don't realize that wisdom is a great, great virtue to have. And you can't have wisdom if you are not observing yourself, right? First step is being ignorant. You got to not know something to find out what you don't know. Then once you observe what you don't know, now you're able to actually see what you don't know and actually take it in as information to be digested. Now that you are digesting what you don't know through your observation skills, whether that's listening, smelling, tasting, touching, seeing something, right, through your 5 senses and beyond, because you have meta senses as well, if you locked in like that, or tapped in, I should say. Whenever you are able to evolve, now you are actually able to see what you're evolving into. When you're ignorant, you aren't seeing what you're changing into because you're de-evolving, right? This is where the devil comes in, because de-evolve is just devolution, de-evolution, devil, right? So the devil wants you to do things that aren't in your favor of growing. It wants you to grow in a negative way, which is dying, death, right? So there's only 2 ways. It's up, down, left, right, as above, so below, yin and yang. So there's always a counterpart to something. There's always a reciprocity. There's always a push and a pull. So when it comes to wisdom, it's always going to be ignorance. But let's talk about wisdom, right? When we talk about wisdom, I think it's very important that we actually know the root meanings of words, because the etymology always traces back to the root of the word. Where did this word come from? How did it come to being used today, right? So when we talk about wisdom, we don't understand that wisdom is more than just, oh, that person's smart or that person's experienced. It's actually a lot of levels that go into it. So I actually did some research and I'm here to share with you, right? So right here I got on my screen the etymology of wisdom. And I'm finna flip the camera so you can read it with me, right? We finna do this together, right? Come on, guys. Oh, shoot. My fault. Let's do it, right? The etymology of wisdom. It says, having the power of judging or discerning rightly, right? Learned, sagacious, cunning, sane, prudent, discreet, experienced, practically knowing. Also from the word weed, which means to see, because now you have enlightenment. And if you are ignorant, then that means that inside of your mind is dark, right? So when you don't know something, it's shade, it's dark, it's in the shadow. So when you become aware, you become enlightened, which is why you gain wisdom, which gives you the ability to see things from a different perspective. Does that make sense? Right? So this also comes from the slang meaning aware, cunning. So the reason I'm showing you this is because wise is very, very significant, and it's something that we need to talk about and become more in the community. We need to use the wisdom. We've been seeing how, politics, governments, foreign governments, economics all plays a part in oppressing the community and also forcing our community in predicaments that are self-sabotaging. So if we could use our wisdom to make better decisions as a unit, then we will be actually changing the trajectory of our community in the country and in the world, right? So I wanted to show you the etymology of wise, right? The reason I did that is because when we look at wise, it's not just the word, it's the sound, right? When we say words, we're speaking spells. This is grammar, this is spells, grimoires, right? So we live in a magical world full of fantasies of wizards and goblins and unicorns. This is the real reality that we live in. But since we live in a society that has now monetized everything and hidden a lot of truth, and then also dumbed us down to not believe in ourselves or our imagination or our psychic abilities or metaphysics and spirituality in general, now we don't really see the world as a magical fantasy like world where dragons and fairies exist when they actually in fact do. So we live in a magical world, meaning that the words that you speak are spells because you're spelling, right? And originally the first language was psychic telepathy, right? Whenever you're talking to God, it's telepathic language. You don't hear a voice with your ears, you hear it with your psyche, right? Because metaphysical beings don't have a vocal cord to create vibrations for your ears to pick up. So these beings have to talk to you on a vibrational level that you can pick up, which you can only do through your light body, which is why it's called a psychic ability, because it's metaphysical and only your psyche can pick up on it. Meaning only your subconscious and your brain can tap into it, not your physical ears and membranes and nerves, because those are things that are used in the material realm, not on the spiritual realm, which is the light realm, right? So the reason I brought wisdom up is because we see in our community right now, the most ignorant thing going on is the YNs, right? It's not that YNs are ignorant, it's the agenda being pushed on our young leaders, our young people, right? They want to label all young people a YN, right? Even if you dress in a hoodie just because you feel like you're wearing a hoodie, you don't want to be seen in public, you're a YN because it's hot outside or it's sunny outside. It don't even gotta be hot no more. You could just be having a hoodie out in the sun and everybody think you a YN, right? But let's not act like these YNs aren't justified with feeling how they feel. You telling me my parents aren't parenting, my grandparents aren't parenting, my community ain't communitying, right? We don't move as a unit. Every other community is coming to my community to make money off of me, and I can't even make money off of me. Yet I'm supposed to feel like I'm gonna behave well and be a good slave employee to my employer, and I'm supposed to be living an okay life because I make $15 an hour. It doesn't make sense, right? So when these YNs have the emotions to go crash out, right, they are justified in that feeling. Because look at the world we live in. We live in a constant oppression and constant corruption. So if you don't feel like you have the feeling inside of your heart to crash out because of the injustice ways of society that's being perpetuated, then you might not be really tapped into your heart space and your emotions and your wisdom, right? You might just be ignorant because now you're ignoring the fact that the world is going through such a crisis on a global scale, and the world itself is mad. The animals is angry, the trees and plants are angry, the bugs and insects are angry. You got to realize that these group of people have oppressed not only different communities, but different animals, plants, insects, and the planet itself. So if you aren't in alignment with God and the planet and these animals and insects, then you would not feel angry, right? You should have a justified anger about the way that life is rolling out right now. So when we talk about YNs and how they want to crash out, they have a justified emotion, right? We see that people have to sell drugs in the community just to survive. That should make you feel some type of way. Because why do I got to destroy somebody else's life to make an income because I can't get hired from these employers to make a living, right? Or I can't run a business because I won't get the right loans and funding, or I won't get the right support. So the only business I could run and get the real support is by selling what I got to sell to my people only, right? Because when it comes to YNs, we think that all YNs are in the streets, but they're not, right? Because when you take the word YN, it means a young man, right? Not going to say the term on here, but a YN is a young man. So why is it that all of our young men are being titled a YN, right? It's just basically giving people the closest path possible to saying the N-word, right? Instead of saying, oh, that's just a young dude, I'm gonna call him a YN for short. So now I'm still calling him a young dude with the N-word, but now I'm just saying it as an acronym because social media made it okay, right? And social media only made it okay because it was a CIA agenda to push it through the media. Because the social media is all ran by these government official agencies, if that makes sense. So when we talk about YNs, we got to realize that these YNs are also the most intelligent generation. They got to see not only all the other generations fail and see how they didn't succeed, but they also had the most resources to actually go and learn and succeed themselves. So they know they got the internet, they got libraries, they got their soul themselves, they got the planet. These are all learning resources for making you wiser, right? So when they want to corrupt something or they want to change the trajectory of something, they do it ahead of the curve, right? So before all these young men start waking up and becoming self-aware to change their route and change the bloodline of their family to become a wiser bloodline, a wiser people, right? They say, hey, before you become a wise one, you're going to become a young one, a young crash out. They'd rather you be labeled a crash out than a philosopher. Because if you had a vision and you had a mindset that was independent and also thoughtful and intentional and inspirational to other people, that would be powerful, and it would be a problem for the control that they have over the people who aren't independent thinkers. Because you can't be an independent thinker and ignorant at the same time. And if you are independent and ignorant, then that means that you aren't both. Like, how can I say it? You can't be independent as of a mindset and ignorant, because the ignorance that you are perpetuating your own mindset is being given to you, is being fed to you, right? Because naturally, as a childlike person, or not even a childlike person, but when you have that authentic childlike energy, your whole natural energy is to question things. You have a natural curiosity. So if you are ignorant, then that's something that's been fed to you. That's a subconscious belief to think that, no, I shouldn't question this. I shouldn't learn from this. I shouldn't adjust the way I'm seeing what I'm seeing, right? I should accept it and I should ignore any questions I have about it. That's a mindset and a program that's been given to you. So when they see YNs are upcoming in the community when it comes to empathy, intelligence, and action, they want to label you something that you aren't aligned with, right? So they took the YN and they put it on the young men to keep them from being wise yin, right? Wise yin is a term that I created about a few years ago because I'm gonna break it down. Wise yin means that you are a wisdom yearner, right? So first, I'm gonna show you something. When you look at the way that wise yin was first initiated and brought upon the world, this is what it meant, right? So it was spelled this way. It was spelled wise yin. It might have been Wizian. I don't know. I'm not from that era. It's old English. I speak a little bit of English and the rest is metaphysics. So when we're talking about wise yin, it means to show the way, guide, point out. So what do you think they're showing the way through? What do you think they're guiding them out of? What do you think they're pointing out, right? So the wise yin are the people who have wisdom, who guide others out of ignorance. They guide others out of stupidity, or should I say not even stupidity, they guide others out of cycles of mistakes, cycles of self-sabotage, cycles of pain, right? To show you the way to heal, to show you to the way of enlightenment, to show you the way of learning and evolution, right? To point out the wrongs in your actions, to point out the right that you could do and create, right? So this is originally the wise yin etymology, right? Which wasn't really much used. It was really not an adjective. It was a verb. So I would call somebody a wise yin. That's that person that's over there that's guiding everybody, that's showing them the way out, that's pointing out, right? So if we know that wisdom meant to learn, right, meant to see, right, and to be a wise yin meant to guide other people to see, then we also want to show you, I want to show you yin, right? So this is the word I created. Wise, as of W-I-S-E, and then I added the Y-E-N because yin has its own etymology as well. So if you look at yen, it was known as a dollar coin, a currency, right? This is what it means in Japanese. But if I go to the second definition, it means a sharp desire, a hunger, right? To yearn, the influence of yearning, right? So if I'm a wise yin, right, that means that I have no longer accepted the ways of ignorant thinking and ignorant programs, and I'm ready to actually accept wisdom into my life, and actually not just accept it, but I yearn it, I'm hungry for it, and I thrive to I thrive to eat off of wisdom. I'm striving to learn more, right? I am starving for more wisdom. I have a sharp desire about what I want to learn to grow and become better and making better decisions, to be proactive and not reactive. Because ignorant people are reactive because they ignore the fact that they should prepare, and then whenever the preparations is too late to be preparing for, now they have to react to what they didn't prepare for, right? This is why a lot of ignorant people are victims. They have a victim mentality, right? When really the victim mentality is the fact that they aren't their own savior. When you have wisdom, you are your own savior. You say, hey, no one's coming to save me. I have that wisdom that I am my own savior and I am my own victim. I am self-sabotaging and I need to change my ways. So I need to become the hero and actually make the change necessary for me to get ahead in life, to make a better decision for myself, right? So when I took the word wise and yin, I am a wisdom yearner, right? So I created this term back in 2021. 2021, I created wise yin. That was the year I graduated. 2021 was a powerful year. As you know, 2 + 2 + 1 = 5. So that was the year of change, which was a great change because we had the pandemic, right? We had the corona, and you know what I'm saying? The sun was doing what it had to do, right? That's why we had all this different politics stuff going on, and it's all based off the sun. You know, life is based off of the spiritual. It's as above, so below. So that's why people that watch astrology are watching for the future and the stars, right? And if you want to see what's to come, you watch for the sun, because the sun is the most direct source of God in our life. I got a hat on, say God got me, right? The direct source of God is going to be through the sunlight, through the earth, right? So the earth and the sun are the mother and father that's materialized. So masculine energy and feminine energy materialize into the planet, into the sunshine, and then we look at it as just a piece of rocks, a piece of flame, when the sun ain't even fire, it's plasma, right? The earth ain't even a rock, it's a being, it's alive, right? I can go talk to the earth right now, right? I can go talk and actually gain wisdom from nature, right? That's why when you ever watch a movie and the main character, they finna go and do personal development, they go out into the ocean, they go out into the mountain, they go out into the desert, they go out into the forest in isolation, and now that they by themselves and they out in nature, they always become better. They have a deeper sense of themselves because, for one, we come from nature. So when you go back to nature, you go back to who you was, you go back to your source, you go back to your roots. So as you go back to you, your soul, and your inside self, you become more intentional with who you are, and you let go of the false ego of the ignorant self that you have created in this falsified society. Now you're actually able to align with the planet, with the sun, with the stars in the universe, right? So now you're able to receive that wisdom. This is how you get psychic mediums, the channelers, because they had to go in isolation, gain that wisdom within themselves, and then let that metaphysical wisdom be materialized. So now they have metaphysical gifts like psychic abilities, right? This is how you get telepathy. This is how you get telekinesis, hydrokinesis, pyrokinesis, right? These are our metaphysical gifts that are naturally innate in us, but we don't have the wisdom to actually unlock and use it. So since we don't have that wisdom, we have a lot of ignorance about being magical and being gifted. Now, since I'm ignorant, I'm going to believe this movie is just a movie. I'm finna go watch the Avatar and believe that they just made this up, when this was really history documented and retold and resold to you to make monetary gain off of it, so that way you be enslaved to selling 2 hours of your time to watch some history that you already done lived in your past lives. Meanwhile, you have to go trade your time for money, and you're going to go spend your money on that movie so that way they can keep living free off the money they're making by oppressing you through the entertainment. Because to entertain is also a metaphysical word. Entertain. Enter, my enter being, there's enter me. When you entertained, right, that means you are observing something. Whatever you are observing is entering your brain, and then it's containing whatever emotion you feel aligned with that sport, and then your mentality is what's being contained, right? So you watching LeBron for 16 years, but you ain't never got out and done a dunk yourself. You never evolved to that level to go jump 4 feet in the air and dunk a basketball, right? That's entertainment. So you playing video games for 6 hours a day, yet you never got it better at anything in reality. You just wasted your time on a digital product. And that just took a lot of your time, and time is valuable and you can't get it back. And that digital product of video game evolution, that video game gameplay, the skills on a video game is nothing valuable to add to life. I can't say, hey, I'm good at video games so I can save your life, right? I could go and create an impact playing video games by entertainment, but it's not by inspiration. I don't use your soul to spiral inside of you and make you do something because of how you feel inside, right? Instead, I contain your mind by what I entered in your mind to do, and now you are contained in what I am showing you that I do. So now I'm finna stream for 6 hours and you finna be watching me stream. Meanwhile, I'm making money off of you watching me stream. And you are over here entertained, laughing. That's all you're gonna get out of entertainment is laughter, some giddy emotions. That's really it, right? So I believe deeply that this YN agenda is pushed onto our community right now, not only to perpetuate the street life cycle and to keep these young generations in that street life cycle and, you know, keep them from breaking generational curses, because they have the highest potential of breaking generational curses, because they have the most wisdom. Because you got to realize each generation is already breaking generational curses that the last generation couldn't break, right? So generations ago, we couldn't go walk down the street at night. We got a generation that can go do that. And now that we're doing that, we can use our outside time at night to benefit us at night, right? So each generation is constantly evolving. That's why these kids are getting smarter and smarter. So now that they want to observe the fact that these are the wisest generation of our people, they're wanting to contain them into entertainment, right? This is why all you see is social media, streamers, video game players, athletes, actors and actresses, right? Rappers, musicians, right? Everything that's an entertaining subject is always perpetuated on our community, but they don't never want to push the things that are inspirational or innovative, right? Why aren't we inventing things like we used to, right? So the people that are innovative and inspirational are being suppressed and minimized and shadow banned. Meanwhile, all the entertainers that glorify staying within the system of the matrix is keeping you locked in on these social media devices, right? I'm stuck on my phone and all these people are being pushed out into the media, right? You got 1 million likes because you made somebody laugh at something that was ignorant, right? If I'm saying that, oh, her BBL flat, that's an ignorant thing to say. That's inconsiderate, and it's intentionally said to hurt someone's feelings, right? It's not empathetic, and they gonna call it a joke. But guess what? Jokes always come with a little bit of truth. So they're gonna push those things into our community, and I feel like the YN agenda is pushed onto us because really we are the wise yin generation, right? We are the people who are going to seek the most amount of wisdom and receive the most amount of wisdom and implement the most amount of wisdom, so that way we can become wise yin and go guide other people to want to do the same. Now, I'm not just in the community saying, hey, read this book, go to this event, come hang with these people, go get better, right? Go learn who you are. We don't see enough of that. And we don't see enough of that because the leaders in our community end up selling out. They realize, man, it's hard to be a wise yin. Nobody wants to learn about wisdom. Nobody wants to yearn what it takes to evolve themselves, right? So since it's hard to do it, since it's a hard purpose, it's a hard burden to bear, right? Or a hard burden to bear, I should say. They end up realizing, man, it'd just be so much easier if I just help everybody be YNs. I'm going to go slide on the ops. I'm finna go and F on this and that person because I took it from this and that person and this and that person lane. But all the people I'm talking about in my music, in my movies, in my social media platforms, on these dating apps, everybody that you see is always black on black, men on women, versus against versus. It's always divide and conquer, right? We don't ever see unification. This plus that, this times that, this and that collaboration and unified, right? That's the thing. Ignorance divides people. If I say, hey, Trevon, I don't like you because I don't know what's on your face, that's ignorant. You don't take in the fact to observe that, oh, I have acne and I have possible reasons that perpetuate acne, right? But when you have wisdom, you could be like, hey, that's unifying. Hey, Trevon, I observed that you have acne. Let me ask you, what are you doing to take care of that? Oh, okay, you have this and that going on. Let me add some value. Let me add some wisdom. Let me give you some advice, some tips to get better, right? So when you see wisdom, it's always unifying and evolving, everyone included. When we see ignorance, it's always draining and dragging people down to be separated. So we need to really assess the fact that healing needs to happen in our community, and you cannot heal if you keep ignoring the pain. If I keep saying, oh, my heart is cold, my heart in the box, my heart on my chain, I'm numb, I don't feel nothing, that's ignoring the pain. You're ignoring that you're hurt. If I got shot, I'm not gonna go to the hospital because I'm a real one and I could eat this pain. This ain't nothing, this light work. I could just ignore the fact that I'm bleeding out. And then over time, you wondering why you faking, why you passing out. Why is it that I can't stand up straight? Why are my arms hurting? Why I ain't healed yet? Well, for one, you never addressed the situation and you never took the procedure that you needed to actually heal. So it's time that we actually address these conversations as a community and make sure that we can move forward together by adding value to each other, by adding wisdom. It's not like we're going to hurt each other by helping. If I was to say, hey, brother, I'm depressed, I need some help. Can you help me like stay mentally well? That's not going to hurt anybody but my ego. And what does my ego do? Perpetuate my ignorance. So if I'm hurting my ignorance by hurting my ego, then that means I'm building my wisdom. So it's time that we actually need to have real conversations that are perpetuating wise conversations that are pushing for the highest perspective, right? So it's really tiresome the fact that we have YNs in the community that just don't know because they're unaware, because no one was wise and said, hey, let me go talk to that young man over there because I see he's going down the path that the agenda is being pushed. We think, oh, them YNs standing on the corner, they're going to be some street people when they grow up. They're going to be this and that when they grow up. Why are you already seeing the agenda being pushed on your people and then just accepting the fact that they're going to become that outcome of the agenda being pushed on the community? Why aren't we going to our own people and saying, hey, there is an agenda through social media. There is an agenda through politics. There is an agenda through the government that's wanting you to do negative things because they make money off of it, right? They make policies off of it. They make music and movies off of it. So everything's being monetized off your out, right? So it's so many different ways and avenues that we can talk about it, but we gotta address the actual topic is that we are ignoring too much of ourselves in our lives, right? It's easy to go to work and just be clocked in 8 hours a day and be like, man, I hate this job, but really it's the fact that you are uncomfortable with the fact that you're not free. You gotta go work 8 hours a day just so that way you can survive in this economy because you are not free. And you aren't free because you don't know who you are. And if you don't know who you are, then you will never know what you're meant to be. And if you don't know what you're meant to be, then somebody else will always tell you who your purpose is, what your purpose is, right? This is why it's important for you to actually focus on yourself and focus on your creator, right? There's multiple religions. There's multiple perspectives. There's multiple topics on who created you and who is God and who is what. But before you learn who God is and I ain't gonna say before you learn. Let me repeat myself. Before you learn who Jesus is, Muhammad is, Allah is, Buddha is, you need to learn who you is, right? In school, they're already telling you about who the first president is, who the current president is, who this celebrity is, who that celebrity is, that athlete, that politician. You learn about other people before you learn who you is. So if we was to actually take the time to restore our community standards as a powerful people that are based on intelligence and wisdom and love and loyalty to our people, then we can actually see a difference in the change in the community. But if we don't have leaders in the community that are talking about wisdom and healing, then we're always going to be sitting in the background being like, man, I'm mad that we can't have a conversation like this. I'm mad that my people ain't doing it. Well, if we don't see what we want to see in our community, then it's up to us to be the example to go and create that influence in the community. That's why I wanted to create a Thoughtful Thursdays, because we don't think enough. We don't think enough. We go and do stuff without thinking. I'm going to go outside. It's easy to go outside, get some Don Julio, get some Hennessy, some Patron, get some Woods. It's easy to go do that. Because guess what? You go get high, you go get drunk, and you're ignorant. Now you're not thinking independently. Now you're thinking based off the drugs, based off the chemicals, based off the liquor, right? So now you're letting substances think for you and feel for you. And this is why we have crash outs. Because now you're not thinking out of clear mind. You're thinking from a hurt emotional space that you haven't healed from. And you can't heal from it because you keep ignoring that you're hurt, and you keep numbing the pain that you do feel with substances that take you out of your right mind, that leads you to take actions that don't align with helping and evolving your people. And now we got the biggest incarceration numbers in America because of all these people that crashed out, or all these people that were unaware and didn't know that there was things that they could do to keep them out of that room, keep them out of prison. So when we talk about wise yin, it's important for us to be yearning wisdom. Because if you aren't yearning wisdom, then that means you're yearning ignorance. So if you aren't yearning life, because life is all about evolution, then you're yearning death. Because if you are to ignore yourself, you are ignoring God. So if you don't know who you are, you'll never know God. And if you want to know God, you got to know who you is, right? God gave you a purpose. Everybody got a purpose in life. And your purpose in life is to know who you are. Once you know who you are, you know what your purpose is. But you can't know what your purpose is if you don't know who you is. So if you don't create your own relationship with your source creator, then you will never create that relationship with yourself that you need to walk on your highest power. Right? So this is why it's important to go tap into nature. Because whether you believe in religious beliefs, subconscious beliefs, or emotional beliefs that are a part of society, at least nature will help you understand and overstand your beliefs at a higher rate of clarity. Because clarity is the enlightenment to observe something and understand it, right? But if you never go tap into nature, you just see nature as a bunch of trees and grass that needs to get cut every summer, then you're never going to tap into your reality. So it's very important that you are thoughtful about what you do, what you say, what you speak, and what you are creating, right? Everything that you are participating in is a reality that you created for yourself. If you go outside this weekend, you would have never knew. I mean, if you go outside this weekend, you know what happens when you was outside. But if you stayed inside, you don't know what happened when you stayed inside, right? What happened outside, you don't know. That's something that's unaware to you. So you have to wait till you run into somebody that was outside, or you see it on social media, and then you start to learn, oh, they was outside twerking on cars at the gas station. Then they was outside and they was running from the police. But if I was inside studying, getting better, reading a book, and imagining my reality to become a better and more positive reality, that would have been a reality I've been co-creating with the universe. Instead of co-creating with people and demons and spirits and substances that are looking to drain my energy. Because we are a grand people. We are a multidimensional people. And we are beyond just going outside. Going outside, shaking your tail, smoking, drinking, having sex, that's not the peak of life. Those are the substitutes of the peak of life. The peak of life is discipline, inspiration, achievements. You can't achieve anything being drunk. Not that you can't do things simultaneously, but if I'm drinking, that's not an actual achievement. That's a falsified substance emotion that I have co-created with by drinking this brand that had made money off of me. How come we can get drunk off of other people's brands, but not even our own? Like Black Mama Vodka. We got Don Julio's on our head outside, but we ain't got no black businesses on our heads outside. Why don't we got no black liquors outside on our head? If we gonna at least perpetuate the negativity, why don't we perpetuate the negativity from our own businesses? Right? So even though we need to change what we're doing from negative to positive, it's not gonna happen if we don't observe who we are, what we're doing, and where we're headed. And in order to do that, you have to acknowledge the fact that you've been ignorant to what life is really about and what your life is really doing and what your life is really going, right? So if we stop being ignorant, we start seeking wisdom by seeking wise people, by seeking wise information, by going wide, right? You gotta go wide in them books. Open them books wide, right? If you don't know how to read, go find a book that teach you how to read. Actually, go use AI. AI will teach you how to read. You use AI for all these other things. Use AI to become better. So if we don't have these thoughtful conversations on these Thursdays, then we can never really advance on Facebook Live. Because Facebook Live full of drama. Facebook Live full of, not even just live, but Facebook in general is full of drama, negativity, bad news. It's hard to see positivity on Facebook, which is why I be inconsistent with it. I'm going to be honest. I don't want to get on here and see you outside, and then next thing you know, you fighting and throwing Don Julio bottles at each other. That's not attractive. That's not attractive at all. And it's very embarrassing because you don't see any other community doing what we do. And if you do see them doing what we do, it's not the whole unified community. It's only a smaller bit amount because most of their communities are based on positivity and wisdom and evolving, trying to move as a unit, right? So as all these other communities outside of us and in America and outside of America are preparing for something bigger than themselves, meanwhile, we're the only people that's trying to line dance and go have fun every weekend. When is it there going to be a weekend where we actually just sit down and get better? Sit down and heal. Sit down with our therapist. Sit down and order a therapist, right? We can never really evolve if we don't address the fact that we are doing things to de-evolve. We are getting worse. We have to acknowledge the fact that I'm getting worse. My condition is getting worse. I can't heal until I address the fact that I have a condition, right? If I'm sick and I realize, man, my nose is getting more runnier and congested, the cough is getting harder to cough and breathe, I have to acknowledge and be influenced by people in crowds. So we need to really take into consideration that it's time for us to make better decisions for ourselves and become wiser, right? This is why I created the term wise yin. It's also a multi-acronym. I'm actually going to write it down so I can break it down for you. And then after that, I'm going to be closing for this Thoughtful Thursday for the episode 1. But this is the first one by myself. The next ones, I do look on having people come on here and we're going to share each other's thoughts because each one reach one. A peace of mind is a peace of mind. So that means if I'm trying to find my mental capacity, if I'm trying to gain my mind or expand my mind, I need to get your peace of mind. If everybody got peace of mind and we put our minds together, that creates a puzzle. Now we got a picture that we can actually see and unify to go and build, right? So let me write this down so that way I can show y'all what it is I mean when I say there's a double acronym or triple acronym, I should say, when it comes to wise yin, right? So I'm gonna flip the camera, explain this, and then I'm gonna wrap it on up, all right, family? So let's look at it. Wise yin. Looking at wise yin, for one, we already broke down. Wise. For one, we're chasing wisdom. We're not even chasing it because wisdom doesn't run away from people. And if it is running away from you, then you probably need to run faster, okay? Then you also have yin, right? So yin, wise yin. So you got the wisdom, you got the yearner, right? Because we just broke down the etymology of yin, and yin means to yearn, or it means currency. So this could also be seen as wise money, right? But you also have a third entendre with the I in the middle, right? So now I have wise, I, yin. So what that means is I'm using my wise I within myself, right? So my wise I within, meaning my insight, my intelligence, my enlightenment, right? Now I'm actually using my third eye. What they call it really is your first eye, because your brain is your first eye. You see with your quantum computer before you see with your eyeballs, right? You think of something before you actually go look at it. So you're using your brain first, right? So using my wise eye, which is my first eye, I'm actually using my mind. My subconscious mind is my wise eye. That's the seat of the soul. My third eye, right? Looks something like this. You got these two eyeballs, but this is the first one. Your brain will develop first. Then it develop your facial features. Then it develop your spinal cord all the way down to your toes. So when we talk about being a wise yin, we're using our wise eye to see within ourselves and then make the changes necessary to be a wise yin that go and teaches other people to be wise and guide them out of the ignorance and point them to the way of righteousness and point them to the way of evolution, right? I hope that makes sense, family, because this is a term that I created back in 2021, and I feel like this YN agenda is intended to throw off and off track the wise yin movement that is naturally happening off of frequency. Even if I didn't create wise yin, there's naturally going to be wise yins all the way around. I just created a word to tangibilize, to make it tangible, to say of what people are going through right now. People that are evolving, they've been through spiritual warfare and they survived, and now there are spiritual leaders that's able to go be earth angels on the planet and teach other people, right? So that means that they are a wise yin, whether I created this word or not. But knowing that the FBI and CIA and the American government watches us, the shadow government watches us, they know when things are coming. So they try to off track it early on, even though it's not going to work. So although YNs is going to be out here for the next 5-10 years, they're not going to be the biggest crash shows like they was in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s. These next generation of children are going to be the next leaders of philosophers, the next leaders of starseeds, of souls that are actually going to be materialized in the universe into physical flesh like we always have. But now we're going to be such high in population of souls that are awakened and aware of themselves that you're not going to be able to push an agenda on us, because we're going to be so self-aware and so wise that we'll be able to see through it. And that's why I'm trying to tell you now. This Thoughtful Thursday was intended to help you see through the agenda now before it actually hits the fan, right? Because a lot of stuff coming to hit the fan, and if you aren't prepared, you're going to be reactive. And if you're reactive, that's your loss. Because if people are telling you from multiple perspectives, multiple angles, to prepare, to know who you are, to know what your purpose is, to know God and your ancestors and your spirit team, and you choose not to do your homework spiritually, that's your spiritual homework, that's your soul's homework, you choosing not to tap in, that's on you, right? Everything is just a medium to get you to learn who you are. That's why it's important to learn about wisdom, so you can gain insight, enlightenment, and intelligence, because it's all about your inner God, your energy, your inner self, right? Inspiration, intelligence, internal, intentional. All N words are about yourself. And if you aren't using the wisdom to cultivate emotional stability, a mental stability, a spiritual stability, a physical stability, then you will be thrown off and outcasted, or I would say actually incasted into the matrix. Because the matrix doesn't want you to know yourself. They want you to be a YN. They want you to be a bad B, right? They want you to be a street dude. They want you to be a good employee. But you will never know who you are beyond that title. That's why it's important to know yourself before you attach any title from this physical world to your being. That's why, okay, I'm going to be broke for a minute. Because being a bum gives you clarity. And now that you could be a bum with clarity, now I have the clarity to be who I am and receive my abundance. Now that I was in that bum mentality, I done bumped my head in a couple hard spaces. And now I'm wise enough not to bump my head anymore. I'm wise enough not to be a bum and know who I am to receive that clarity. Now I am actually wise enough to know that being a bum made me abundant. It made me abundant, okay? So I wanted to share my abundant wisdom with you all today on this Thoughtful Thursday. I will be doing this every Thursday until July 31st. I will continue it going into August. Afterwards of my trip, I will be traveling in August. So I just wanted to put this information out there, because if we don't have these uncomfortable conversations and these aware, or I should say enlightening conversations, then we will never get to hear it at all, right? It's people not at home having conversations with us like this. It's people at church that's not having conversations with us like this. People at school, people at the gym, at the court, people at the grocery store. There's nobody in your community having conversations like this. So we got to have it somewhere, in some place, in some space, at some time, right? So we're going to choose it today, right here, right now. Every Thoughtful Thursday, tap into this Facebook Live, and we're going to continue having these conversations so we can grow abundantly, gratefully, and of course, gorgeously, right? We are gorgeous people. We're multidimensional. So let us grow and let us glow. It's time to shine. It's only up from here. And I'm really ready to rise up. And I hope that there's other leaders in the community that's ready to rise up and be other fellow wise yin, so that way we could guide the community, the youth, the elders, whoever is stuck in that ignorant mindset, that subconscious cycle, so that way we can move forward and actually create a change in the community, because it's only up to us. If we're going to sit back and watch everybody else change their communities while we sit back and complain about our own, then this live ain't for you, right? But if it is for you, hopefully you can go out and start teaching your community. And even if you do want to be ignorant, sometimes you got to be in a wise conversation multiple times to actually start feeling that wisdom. It's all about proximity and energy and frequency. So the more that you're around wise people, the more you're actually going to grow from wisdom, right? It's all about energy. So your proximity is everything. This is why going outside full of ignorance, not saying that everybody outside is ignorant, but when you're around a bunch of ignorance, you naturally feel dumber. You naturally feel ignorant yourself, right? So it's up to us to change. And it starts with ourselves. If we can't change who we are within and change our perspective of how we see what we see when we look within, and we'll never get to see what is really in front of us outside of us. So I want to thank everybody that has stopped into this live, spent about an hour with me. Trevon Wise, Jen Matting. Definitely grateful, and I think it was a very powerful conversation that was necessary to be had. It's not the last, and it definitely wasn't the first. So as we continue to making this happen, I hope that you continue to grow on your own and grow on these lives as well with me. And as we continue to grow together, let's watch this impact really influence the youth, the community, the elders, whoever needs to influence. And we're going up from here, right? I can't really say too much. I'm bad at outros, so I'm going to just let y'all go. Much peace and abundance and love to you all. I want to give gratitude to the ancestors for assisting me with this live. I want to give gratitude to the Ascended Masters, the elders, the Star Family, Soul Family, Star Family. Or I said Star Family, but I want to give gratitude to nature, Mother Nature, Father Time, Father Sun, Chita, Ra. There's so many I could think, but that's for another live, for another story. For now, I'll leave it at that. But much love and abundance to you all. Use your peaceful power wisely, family. Wisely. Wisely. Be mindful and be thoughtful always. Much love.